Welcome to Primetime, everybody. This is your second episode of the week, but this one's a special one because we're talking Scream 6 spoiler review. I'm host Hunter Chambliss. I'm joined by my co-host Chad and Kerri. How's it going, guys?
Great.
Going great. We may be talking about a movie that we all liked.
Yeah, as you can see, wearing the Scream attires. So yes, Scream 6 was released this past Friday, this past weekend. I am super excited to talk about it. So let's start off with our non-spoiler thoughts on Scream 6, and then we'll go into more spoilers. So whoever wants to start, you guys can go ahead and start.
Okay. Yeah, this has just been kind of an interesting journey as we try to figure out what the hell the next phase of Scream is after, sadly the passing of Wes Craven came about. I don't think anybody really expected that to happen. And then we got Scream 2022. We didn't know what the hell that was going to be. We found out. I know Hunter really loves that one. I've had a pretty like a big roller coaster kind of effect with that one where I really liked it when I first saw it. Then I revisited a couple times, started to not like it more and more each time, and then upon revisitation I've liked it a little more, but I still don't like adore it or anything. However, this new one I pretty much loved. I don't see myself going back down with this. Maybe a little bit, if anything. I only really see me kind of staying the same or going higher on it actually upon more rewatches, just because I think like what they did with this one is Radio Silence smartly took the film before it and moved all the characters forward, gave us a really cool new setting while also taking those same characters and just building on them and giving us more of them, kind of changing them a little bit. They deepened the relationship between Sam and Tara. It made me like those characters a lot more than I did in the fifth one. The kills in this movie were pretty brutal. I won't go into detail until we go into the spoilers. It was scary a lot of the times. They gave us some like really kind of like new things that we haven't seen in Scream movies before, but they didn't do it like out of like just like a shock value or anything like that. Like it made sense every time they did it. The reveals of who the killer or killers are or were really cool, and I really dug that part of the movie. Overall, I just think this is a really solid semi sort of remake of Scream 2. And, I think that probably plays a big factor into why I really dug this movie quite a bit. And it's weird because, before the movie came out, when I just saw the trailer, after not really loving 5 that much, Hunter and I were like arguing about this. He was like, "It's going to be awesome." And I was like, "It's going to suck." And, upon saying it, I was like, I was getting more and more hyped as, reviews were coming out and stuff like that. I didn't like really pay attention or like read any of them, but, I knew that it was supposed to be something good. And so, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw it and really had a great time. And I'll talk more in the spoiler section.
Kerri?
Yeah, I really love this movie. I kind of went into it. I think I felt similar to Chad, where like 5 was my least favorite of the franchise at that point, and I kind of went into 6 with, I'll say, almost zero expectations. Like, this could be good, it could be bad. That almost helped, I think, not in like knowing now that this is kind of like a continuing franchise. I don't think it has the pressure that 5 did to like live up to these like high expectations for a franchise that hasn't had a movie in 11 years. But overall, like, I absolutely love this movie. It made me like 5 a lot more because now I'm kind of like, okay, I can see the direction where things are going. I mean, I'd be fine if it ended here too. But I think if they continue to make them, like, I can kind of now see the direction that things are going. And I don't know, it kind of just made me love the franchise even more. again, like now I'm kind of back to a place where I love all of the movies in the franchise, and like I could rank them, but I like really love them as a set. And I just think having 5 and 6 together, like as that set, like Chad said, like deepening these characters we're introduced to, really helped with that. Overall, yeah, like Chet said, brutal kills. We get a lot of character development from, you know, our returning characters from Scream 2022, mainly Sam, Tara, Chad, and Mindy. So that was fantastic, and I think they handled, you know, Nev not being in the movie. I mean, that's a little bit of a spoiler, but honestly, if you didn't know that by now, but I think they handled Nev not being in the movie like really well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to add because, like, you know, yeah, I think it does help to see more of like Radio Silence's like vision come to fruition, and you get to see it becoming more of their own thing, like you were saying, and not just a remake of the fifth movie. Yeah, and like exactly what you said about because it has been greenlit for Scream 7 already. I mean, just makes sense. These movies are making money. But I do kind of agree with you. I think like what they did was they had like hints to maybe moving things on, or hints to things that could happen in another installment. But also like the way they end it is really cool for like how a sequel should end. It doesn't have you know, well, we could talk about potential post credits scene or anything like that, but like it doesn't have like something big at the end that's just like I'm something different, you know, kind of deal. Like in the next one, like you thought that was different, you know, or anything like that with like a new ghost face or anything like that. And instead they just have a really good kind of like bookend ending to this, and I thought that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, well, and that's pretty consistent, right, with every Scream movie. Like none of them hint towards, you know, oh, the killer is still alive, or there's a new killer out there. Like they all kind of end at a place where you could see this could be the end of the franchise, and it would be a great ending. But
yeah, I think that's ultimately true. I think just like the book end, I don't want to explain like exactly what happens in the book end, but like, you know, the actual ending itself for me, I thought like was just like really cool the way they shot it. And it, I don't know. Yeah. So
yeah. And what's cool is like this doesn't have the problem that like a lot of like say the Halloween trilogy, the new Blumhouse trilogy had, where it's like they greenlit 3 movies in a row, so you knew the middle one was going to be just set up, because we didn't know if Scream 5 was successful, maybe we will get a 6. When we got a 6, they continued on top of that, but they still gave us a good ending to all of these movies instead of being like, oh, here's a setup for 7 because they knew 7 was coming. Right. It's still up in the air.
Yeah, it's like as soon as it started to kind of get some decent reviews and really good reviews and stuff, then it got greenlit. So
yeah, which is smart because again, don't want to say, hey, you know, 3 movies coming and then your first one bombs and you're like, well, we're stuck with a 3-movie contract. Like
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think, Hunter? Did you like this at all?
Oh, did I? I mean, considering I love 5, yes, I love 6, man. I think, yeah, everything you guys said, it built on top of what 5 gave us with the great, like, new characters, the core 4, as they're called, the survivors. I love that. I love that it's brutal and gory, but you also get really good just character moments where people are just talking, and they're, you know, really good dialogue between the characters, the new characters, the returning characters from 5. And I also like how they incorporated the new actors and the new characters with the returning characters from Scream 5, and it didn't feel jumbled. It didn't feel like, oh, new bodies to be like, oh, you know, new victims or a new ghost face reveal, whatever. It felt like they were kind of integrated into their lives because it takes place like a year later, so it feels like not a big time jump, but just enough to be like, okay, this is where our returning characters are now, and you get to kind of delve deep into more like relationships and stuff with some characters that I loved. I think this has one of my favorite opening sequences just because of how different and unique it is. I think the end set piece is fantastic and really harkens back to what Scream does really well is like that meta-ness and like, being self-aware but not going way overboard like maybe Scream 3 does with the comedy. I think the comedy is really good, but it really has great dramatic moments. I really, really love Scream 6. Can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah.
Yep, I mirror that sentiment.
Mm-hmm. I can't wait to do a full rewatch. Like now that we have all.
Yeah, 1 to 6,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
5 and 6 are going to fit in just nicely. And
Mm-hmm.
if you asked me before Scream 6, I would not have said that at
Yeah.
all because I was
agree.
like, I do not. I think this is just the beginning of the end of Scream
Right.
with after 5, because
Mhm.
I just wasn't on board with Radio Silence's direction, and then now I'm like, okay, no, you sold me.
I don't think, and I can't think of one. Maybe you guys can, but I don't think we have a horror franchise where we have 6 great movies.
Yeah. Like it seems like if a horror franchise has 6 or more movies, that's when they start going lower in quality because this,
Mhm.
like the Final Friday and things like that, where it just kind of gets repetitive. I think Scream is one of the most like consistent franchises in movie history because every single movie, even 3, has redeeming qualities in it, and there's no truly horrible movie in this
Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah, I think Kerri makes a great point to like even like if you were to debate this amongst other horror fans, maybe even people who don't like Scream, I'm like, you kind of got to admit this may be the greatest horror franchise ever to
I think
exist
so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
because every single look, and they'll talk about 3. They'll bring up 3 like, oh, 3's terrible, 3's bad, and then you'll have someone like me, maybe Hunter, Kerri, who can actually sit here and defend Scream 3 as like, no, you're actually not watching the movie. I don't want
Parker
to
Posey is the best part of Scream 3.
you're because the narrative around Scream 3 is painting it as a bad movie. People are just looking at weaker elements of it, but they're failing to see the story, especially Sydney's progression through it. And I think that's exactly what Radio Silence is doing now with its new characters and somewhat with the older characters as well.
And the one thing that makes Scream a perfect franchise to me is that with most horror franchises, you get new final girls almost every single movie. I think what's different with Scream is that it adds on top of whatever it added previously. It feels like a lived-in universe. So Sydney in the first one is different than Sydney in the second one, but you see that character grow in every movie.
Yep.
From being a teenager to being a mother and a wife in the 5th one, and you see that continuation all the way through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, and it's something that kind of Mindy comments on in the franchise rules of this movie. We can get into more in the spoilers, but is that in a typical horror franchise, by the time you get to where we are now, the final girls aren't safe anymore from the original movie. Laurie Strode isn't safe. In Halloween, she's killed off screen by 4. Nancy Thompson isn't safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like in like the franchise, as you guys said, the final girls are just there to be like, hey, she survived, and then they kind of get pushed aside for somebody else. And it seems like what Scream does is it gives you a character of Sydney to progress and see her faults, her struggles, and then also her succeeding.
Yeah, and that's what we get with like Heather Langenkamp in 3 and Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and stuff like that. It's like when we actually like take the characters and move them forward instead of just being the one to survive at the end. But yeah, unless anybody has more comments on that, I think we should talk about the opening scene of Scream 6.
Yes, I am so excited.
We are getting into spoiler territory now.
Spoilers. So yes, I actually have a breakdown a little bit of the opening scene. If you guys just want to go through it real quick, and then we'll talk about what we loved about it or maybe disliked about it. So yes, we open up with who, we could probably guess was the opening kill, Samara Weaving, as Laura Crane. She's on a date and she gets a call from the killer who lures her outside into the alleyway. And he kills her I love this little twist though. The killer then reveals himself, and it's how do you say his name?
Tony
Revoloni?
Revolori.
Yeah,
Tony Revolori.
there we go. Um, and that was a surprise because again, you see a little bit of him in the trailers. I thought he was a new character, maybe one of the Francis Samantera. But it's revealed that the killer is Jason Carvey, which is the name of his character. And it's revealed that they tried to kill Samantera to finish Richie's movie. I love that little line there because again, harkens back to the previous movie and shows that kind of that stab fandom, the toxic fandom thing is still spreading over to this new movie. He then gets a call from his accomplice Paul, and it's revealed that it's the real Ghostface, and Paul was found in pieces inside the fridge, and Jason is killed as we cut to the title sequence.
Yeah, this is so cool that we kind of they subverted expectations here by revealing the initial killer, right at the beginning, and we don't get just one kill. I mean, we've gotten more than one kill in the title sequence before, but in the opening sequence, but this is a whole different take, and it's so original, but I love how well it was done.
Yeah, no, it was really incredible because like we have seen other people try to impersonate Ghostface. We've never seen like the copycat killer that is Ghostface and actually kills someone, talks about their murder, like how like the person deserved it and how good it felt. And then they get their comeuppance by the actual killer of the movie, or maybe one of the killers coming and killing him. And after seeing his like friend like chopped up in the fridge and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty incredible. It was really cool to see Samara Weaving because she's like a Radio Silence alum with Ready or Not. And then her coming into this, and she's like a film studies professor, and it's cool to see her like talking in like her natural accent.
Yeah.
And then she's it was just kind of a really cool dialogue between them, like her trying to go on a date and then like being lured into an alley, and then the killer's like you think being a study
a slasher film student or professor
teacher, yeah, would know not to go into the alley and stuff like that. And then you could probably watch it back and like maybe be like, yeah, this is a film student that she's talking about. He's trying not to be, and he says he likes romantic comedies or whatever more, or whatever. And then yeah, and it's just like a really really epic sequence. I want to see them go down different roads like this, where they just like give us new takes on an opening of Scream. Just hopefully that they don't, I don't know, go too outlandish one time and it ends up not being that great.
Ghostface in space, we need it.
Oh my god. We don't need that. We don't need any supernatural ghost face. We don't need anything like that, in my personal opinion. But yeah, pretty incredible.
Little Easter egg. I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but on Jason's fridge is an Ice Nine Kills magnet, like
that, and something Kerri had to point out. I'll let her say
like it twice. I was like, Chad, look. There is a Last Podcast on the Left poster on his wall, which is one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah.
And then there's a poster of, is it Vertigo as well?
Yeah, it was Vertigo, yep.
And which does seem to get a lot of love in the Scream franchise. That and Psycho, I've noticed, like Alfred Hitchcock gets a lot of, like, because in Scream 4 there's a poster of Vertigo in the background of the film studies as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to also just see them like bring in like other different like types of pop culture, like horror pop culture and stuff too. Like podcasts are getting like really like legitimate now and stuff, and it's just like really kind of crazy to see them in like a feature film like that. So
yeah, I know. Was it Darcy the Milk Girl was also in Halloween Ends as well. I know she has a podcast as well.
Yeah.
Because she was in the DJ scene, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, so then we go to see Tara in college, right?
Yeah, and I love about this scene is that she's doing what a lot of people say you shouldn't do when dealing with trauma, and that is she is partying, she is going to alcohol, she's going to, you know, a lot of things to distract yourself from what happened last year. And what I love is the kind of the two different ways that the sisters deal with the trauma. Like Sam is going to therapy, she's getting, her mental health taken care of, but Tara wants to go to college, she wants to forget about what happened and drown her sorrows in partying and alcohol and booze and things like that. So the two different the dynamics of how we should deal with this is addressed right off the bat.
Yeah, and it's not like, it's not saying that either of those paths are like really like wrong, but it's
No.
also showing like the other side of it too for each character. Like Sam needs to learn to let her sister make her own mistakes and just, be her own person and not be so controlling. She's kind of like Marlin in Finding Nemo, which is like not letting her go and not letting her, you know, you can't never let anything happen because then nothing will ever happen to her. Kind of deal. And then with Tara, she's trying to, forget everything. And then you kind of got to, she's kind of got to see that she does at some point have to deal with stuff, in a therapy session. And she may or may not say that she's going to do therapy at some point in the movie. One other thing that I do wanted to add, and then I'll throw it over to Kerri, is that I really liked how when we're following Tony Revolori's character, he passes right by Tara, and he knew Tara, and it was like really cool
Yeah.
to see that, and it kind of shows that like Ghostface really could be everywhere. It's like a lot of people are like when you can get like a robe and a mask like that, that's just infamous for doing deeds like this, and you can think you can get away with anything. People might end up doing shit like that. You think about like the darkness of Twitter and people who are
Dread
emboldened
it.
by that, then you never know. So
Kerri?
Yeah, I think like you said, Hunter, it's interesting they show the dynamics between Tara and Sam, and I think neither of them are dealing with it in a healthy way, right? Like Tara's obviously like partying a lot and not confronting the fact that everything happened to her at all, and Sam's kind of going through the motions of dealing with it. Like she's technically going to therapy, but then it's kind of revealed she hasn't actually told her therapist anything.
Everything. Yeah.
And she kind of just lets it all blurt out, and she's maybe being a little bit controlling or overprotective, I guess would be a better word, of her sister. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Hunter.
So I actually like the fact that because it opens up on, I think, was it Halloween night or the night before Halloween? Because I think this takes place. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like the night before, or even maybe 2 nights before Halloween. It's a little hard to tell. I think there might be 2 nights in between or something.
They're going to Halloween parties, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I know that this movie takes place within like a 2 to 3 day span, and I like that because it also shows that like time has passed, but time hasn't passed because you're still not sure what time of day it is because so much is happening, and once the movie starts, it really doesn't stop. Like it really doesn't stop. It just continuously goes forward. So you're in that situation with the sisters of like, what time of day is it? What can I do? And it's just kind of always keeping you like on the edge of your seat, trying to figure out what's going to happen next.
Yeah, never really thought about that. No, but like the other cool thing, I mean, I probably will my next watch. That's why we do this, so we can bring up points that we go, oh, I need to think about that next time. But yeah, the other point that I wanted to bring up, like as right at that we learn here, is that everything's been reframed on the internet as things do with Sam. Like now he is a villain. Whereas, we've in Scream 5, with the Billy stuff that we didn't really love, you get this whole question of what's going to happen to Sam. Is she going to go to the dark side? Is she gonna like end up becoming a ghost face
Mhm.
at some point? Is she going like her dad is trying, or her what she imagines her dad to be saying to her is telling her that she needs to follow his example or whatever, and that doesn't change. That keeps going in this, which I'm
Sorry.
glad that they kept doing that, so that we get this like really cool arc with her. But like now we see, as everything does on the internet, anything can be like reframed to just be the complete opposite of what happened. And it's actually it's believable for people who don't know Sam, but then even for us, the audience, we're kind of like, "Oh, that's not what happened." But then we're also kind of like, but Sam is the daughter of a serial killer, and
And
at
she
the
did stab Richie like 23 times. So
did do that, which is really insane. And then she also kind of like accepted being the daughter of a serial killer, and it's maybe like something that she thinks is an asset for her, or a good thing, and not a something that she needs to go to therapy to overcome and figure out and actually let go of that.
yeah, I also like how they actually took that from real life and then added it into the film. It adds another texture of like meta-ness, because all over YouTube and stuff, we've seen these theories of like, is Sam gonna be the villain in Scream 7, or is she gonna finally get the dark, like go to the dark side? So we've seen these theories pop up on YouTube about like, theories that like maybe Sam is gonna snap one day. So they took that and made that an essential part of this movie from Scream 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say? Oh, yeah, and it just like really kind of like frames this whole movie too, because and we'll learn more as we talk about like why this happened, but it's just like a really cool like conflict that she has to face now.
Mhm.
You know, having to go through that with what Richie did to her and her sister, and then wanting to protect her sister, but then now being the villain of the story to so many people, because as we see, you can easily reframe like any movie. You saw Barney Stinson do it in How I Met Your Mother, just to be like, actually, what's his face from Johnny from The Karate Kid is actually the
The
hero,
hero, yeah.
and Daniel LaRusso was the villain. Like he
And
was
that's
kind
what Cobra
of
Kai season 1 was based on.
exactly, and that they did a whole show out of that. And so now it's kind of interesting to see that in Scream 6.
Yeah, well, I think this is where we can also start to talk about how this is a very clever Scream 2 remake.
Yes.
Because I think, and we kind of get, but in a way where it's, not doing quite the same thing. Like in Scream 2, we see Sydney's getting harassed. She's kind of infamous in her own right for being a victim of the Woodsboro murders. We see Sam getting harassed for being framed, like Chad said, as potentially the perpetrator of the new Woodsboro murders. So that's kind of, I think, where we start to see these parallels to Scream 2.
It takes place in college.
Yeah, and it's taking place in college.
You get to see the characters that you knew that were high school kids now being college kids, and like how they are. Like, I didn't know Tara was going to be a freaking partier. I didn't know Tara and Chad might
I love that,
a
man.
relationship.
Yeah, they're adorable, man. Like, and I like the fact that it wasn't like built in from the fifth movie, like, because you get the idea that Tara and Chad have history just because they've known each other for a long time. But what's cool about it is in this one you get more screen time with Chad and Tara, and you realize how much they have a shared trauma with each other, but also that shared trauma adding on top of the fact that they've known each other for a long time can muster up feelings for each other. And it's just something that does make sense in a way. That's not like, oh, they liked each other from Scream 5. Now, if I watch Scream 5, maybe I'll notice little hints, but in Scream 6, it's to say that the shared trauma that they both had, also the fact that they have this history with each other, that makes sense.
Yeah, and a lot of these interactions you get pretty early on in the movie is before there's a big like inciting incident that's like, oh, there's a new ghost face coming, and this one's real, or this one means business or anything like that. In Scream 2, it's kind of like that as well, like where they have like before, there's an actual like issue, like, that she's just kind of chilling, checking her caller ID, like, you're not really Ghostface. And so there's a little bit of that. You get to see them interacting with each other when there's not an actual shit going down until there is.
Yeah. And I actually love the fact that like Chad in this movie, and the reason why I think Chad is one of the MVPs of this movie is because after what happened in Scream 5, you see that he starts becoming more protective over everybody. Like in this one, like Sam is more worried about Tara. Like yes, she's worried about her friends, but that's her sister. In this one, it seems like Chad is like the big brother to everybody else, and like he's the one who will fight against somebody who is trying to take advantage of Tara in the early scene at the party. And you see him immediately. Hey, I'm stepping in. I'm doing something about it. I'm not going to wait. I'm just going to come in. And yet, Tara may hate me for a minute, but I did it in her, for her good, in his opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean they took all the new characters from 5 and like made them, I think, better and more fleshed out in the 6. Like Chad for me, just like, even though I'm Chad for me never really even in this one didn't like. He wasn't like the highlight of the movie for me or anything like that, but I did like him more as a character than I did in in 5 here. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from for sure.
Mm-hmm. Kerri, anything else you want to add on the opening scenes?
Yeah. Well, also because we were talking about Chad, like towards the end, I will say when he's like freaking like fighting ghost faces and stuff like that, it was pretty incredible. So a lot of the fighting in this movie is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and Radio Silence made up for the lack of chase scenes in 5 with plenty of chase scenes.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it's like, because like in 5, it's like Dewey had to go back to the ghost face instead of having the ghost face come to him.
Yeah.
So. It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah, so let's get into talking about the returning character from Scream 4, Miss Kirby Reed.
Who?
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah. Kirby's in this movie. I love the fact that she went into police work, like the FBI work, based on her experiences from 4. Going like a bit further into the movie, I love the scene with Kirby and Mindy talking about horror movies together, because that was exactly what I wanted. Like talking about like asking questions like the best Friday movie, the best sequels, things like that, and they just go back and forth with each other. It's so fun.
Yeah. Kirby's return was handled so excellently. It makes sense that she would choose that line of work and be like something of a Ghostface expert kind of a deal. And it's just really cool to see her return as a character, but then also just to see like Hayden Panettiere like return like to acting, kind of like, because we just really haven't seen her doing much, which is totally cool. But like now that she's kind of back, I'm wondering like if this is gonna like boost her career, or if she's just gonna be like a Scream franchise person going on if she survives the movie, and kind of a deal. But yeah, it was like really cute to see her come back. She just seems, as a character and an actress, she just seems so excited to be back in a Scream movie, because you hear so much about like maybe a returning actor just kind of like coming in for a paycheck. It just didn't seem like that at all. She just like was kind of bursting with life, and yeah, it just seems so cool. And I love the fact that she's the FBI, and even like they even poked fun at the fact that she's young in the FBI. And,
Gail's line about you were 14 the last time I saw you.
Right.
Okay.
And then how they portray the timeline too, where it's like was it Sam was a freshman when Kirby was a senior?
Yeah. And how like they all know each other from like,
and it makes sense, and they build that in, so it's like it feels like things are getting more and more connected. And then even when Kirby goes in and she's like going through all of the films of the Scream franchise and just like making fun jokes about like Roman, and just
good for him.
fun
Yeah.
stuff in exactly in these movies. I loved how they were like reframing everything, making it their own radio silence, and just like I don't know, just like connecting a lot of dots, and just like I'm sitting there like I kind of finally feel when Kirby was going through that, I was like, now I feel like Scream is in good hands, because I didn't feel like that before. So
Yeah, I think this was just a great example of, you know, Radio Silence was able to get a lot of folks back for 2022, and they continued that trend into 6. And I think in a variety of, different roles, even as far as, Drew Barrymore doing voiceover for 2022. So it was really cool to see them bring back Hayden Panettiere in like a very respectful way. And, this wasn't like a cameo, like this, she's an actual character in this movie. I thought I really agree with everything you guys said, just as far as like her character goes and everything.
Yeah. Funny enough, in an interview, Hayden said that Radio Silence didn't come to her. She had to call Radio Silence, and she really wanted Kirby to come back. She was like, I called Radio Silence. I was like, hey, if you guys do a 6th one, I think I'm still alive. Can you guys put that little cameo in there? And they put that in there in post, just to be like Kirby is alive thing, and then they tied that into 6 with her returning.
Oh, that's really cool.
Really, really cool. Yeah, I like how they played. Like they show her scar. And she talks about, it totally feels organic that she'd be alive, she'd be doing this. It doesn't feel like a what do you call it, like a retcon.
Yeah, well, I think especially because within the Scream movies, we have this history of, you think someone's dead for most of the movie, and then they pop up in the ambulance later, and they're like, "Hey, I'm still alive." So you can totally see.
Yeah, that's the one thing in this movie. Yeah, it's definitely a Dewey thing. If you go into this movie expecting complete realism, you're not going to get it. Yeah. But you have to remember that in the Scream franchise, there's always going to be suspension of disbelief, and I am completely fine with what happens at the end. So. We'll get there later, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is that you do have to realize it's a movie. Sometimes there's different like stunt people in the Ghostface costume, so the heights don't always line up. There's certain things that you go like that might not work out, or like how many times was that person stabbed? They wouldn't be alive. So you're right. You do have to do a suspension of disbelief, but I think Scream walks that line perfectly with just like a couple of different things that I just keep bringing up, like the dream sequences, the Billy stuff, which we'll get into, but I'm actually like more okay with it now after 6 than I was. They ride that line really well without going too far, and I hope that they never try to go too far, because then that's when it starts to get kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I want them to keep Scream grounded in reality.
Yeah, I agree with that. So actually going back a little bit to one of my favorite lines in the opening, the opening or the line right after or right before the title card hits, who gives a fuck about the movies?
Right.
I don't know why, like, because knowing the ending and like who the killers are, that line just makes it even more funnier.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a fuck about all the movies, and then cut to the movie opening.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of just like another example of just them being like kind of meta, and just what Scream was always meant to be. It's a commentary on the movies and the film franchise and genre of horror and just everything with that. So yeah, I love every time they poke fun at, movies and are self-aware like that.
Yeah, so let's get into the bodega scene. I think this was a really good set piece, but actually there's a scene before that where I think Sam and Tara are walking down the street, and then they just randomly get attacked by Ghostface. And I'm just like, where the fuck did that come from? That was a really good use of just like shock value of like he's right behind you and you had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're sitting there like afraid after they know something's going on, and person's walking towards them on the phone. And they're like, and you're like, it's not going to be him. It's like the next person that comes
Mhm.
up or whatever. And I just had to ask Kerri what a bodega was, and she said convenience store. Oh, I'm on
Yeah.
the page that you were.
Yep.
That convenience store sequence was incredible. I love how like I don't give a fuck this Ghostface was because like in because I have like a friend that I talk to sometimes that doesn't like Scream. He doesn't like the Scream franchise or whatever. And one of the things that he criticisms of the first one was when Sydney and Tatum are in the convenience store.
Yeah. Convenience store.
They're
Only like bodegas in like New York.
New York City. Yeah.
I don't know, it's just
It's because a bodega is literally at the corner of a store, so it's like the way that the buildings are. It's literally a corner store. It's a store at the corner.
okay. I'll accept it. But yeah, in that scene in the first one, and you see Ghostface just kind of like running behind them in the reflection
Mm.
or whatever. He's like, that's not realistic. And I love how like it's like some ghost faces are realistic. Like they'll come in a convenience store, they'll just fucking just kill a guy right then and there, and then
Yeah.
like do all this chaos because they know that they can. It's Halloween. They're wearing a costume. They can easily just change out of the costume and just be anonymous. So
Mhm.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was cool use of the New York City setting, and also I think a really cool organic way to kind of get in a couple more kills without having to introduce entirely new characters that are just killed off.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because New York's full of people.
Yeah.
You could just like have a really scary sequence like this one that's
Mm.
so tense, and you're like, is Sam and are Sam is one of Sam and Tara about to die right now? And that's gonna be the what fuels the rest of the movie or something like could easily do that. You
Yeah.
never know. I mean, look at what happens to Randy in Scream 2. It's like you never know which one of these characters could actually die.
I was so worried about Chad and Mindy because I was like, oh my god, Randy died in the second one. Are they gonna? You better fucking not.
Yeah, and that's just kind of interesting to go to see where how we love six. We love Scream 6. And I'm just gonna say it, we're in spoiler territory. None of them do die. And no like main characters die.
Not the core four and not Gail, yeah.
Yep.
Who dies other than the killers?
Well, all the people in the bodega.
Okay, I'm talking about like main characters. Yeah.
Main character. Yeah.
Mindy's girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Annika dies.
That's true.
Which she gets a brutal death, man.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
But she's kind of like, just like any other like person that's at the college in Scream 2 that's not one of the. So yeah, one
Sam's therapist dies. I mean,
That's
he's
true.
kind of a
Another gruesome death. The deaths in here are really brutal, and I love them.
Yeah, so I mean that's a really good point that they just have like a lot of like people to kill and just like 10 sequences and stuff. But like you can see, we love Scream 6, and none of the core people died. They didn't have to do Randy like that. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think that's another thing that makes this a great Scream 2 remake, because in Scream 1, you have Dewey being stabbed. You don't realize he's alive until the very end of the movie where they're popping him into the ambulance. In Scream 2022, instead of Dewey, it's Mindy and Chad both are kind of fulfilling that Dewey role. You think they're dead for, until they're popping up in the ambulance. Again, in Scream 2, Dewey, gets stabbed. You think he's dead most of the time. They pop him out in the ambulance. Same thing here. You think both are dead again, and they're there in the ambulance.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah.
So, talking about some of the new characters, we have Danny, played by Josh Segarra.
Yes,
that's how you say his last name.
That character a lot. I don't know, but
I really love this character because he didn't feel like a red herring. He didn't feel like, oh, this guy is definitely the killer. He felt like he could have been, but there wasn't like the big Easter egg like Derek in Scream 2, where it's like, oh, there's a scene where he is definitely the killer and it's a big red herring.
Yeah, like he's only, and Derek too is kind of like this in a way where they're only the red herrings because they're like the boyfriend. I know
Mm.
that like Derek has that one scene where he gets stabbed and then they're like you're aren't you pre-med or whatever like that. But I think just because he's the boyfriend and you could easily see him being like a strong person in a ghost face thing,
Mm.
that just instantly shed suspicion onto him. But yeah, you're absolutely right that I never really thought it was him, but then I was always just kind of like, but he is the boyfriend.
Yeah, it's predictable, but I like that they didn't go that route again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I like that character and I think like he could be a really cool continuation.
Mm.
I didn't think that about Derek, especially because he dies, but he could be a good continuation further with Sam.
Yeah.
Mm. And especially, he seems like a character that is actually smart. Like, he doesn't do like dumb shit. He doesn't like when Sam tells him that I can't trust you. He's the one who literally tells her, "Don't trust anybody. I understand," and he backs off. He's like, "Okay, I get it."
Until he like shows up with
Mm.
help, but like yeah, he
Mhm.
does back off. That's true, and it was just a really cool sequence to see him, like seeing Ghostface across the good
Oh,
use of like the apartment buildings.
yes. This
Like
whole sequence was great.
they're all in the apartment, they're having a good time. Like, we're four, we're
I love
around,
Chad. Chad trying to get high fives from coming up with core 4 and nobody doing it. And he looks at Tara and he goes, and Sam goes, you better not do it. You better not high five him because of that.
Meanwhile, Danny's like, your friend is dying.
yeah, he's out the window
Open
like,
the door.
dude, and and yeah, and it's really cool to see how like they couldn't hear him, and it just like
Yeah.
created so much tension because like you have one character who knows what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
who's trying to warn, and and we realize there's more going on in that room with the killer than we thought was actually going on.
Yeah.
That actually could be a reference to Scream 2 as well. The Dewey getting stabbed behind Gail, and
Thing.
Gail can't hear anything.
The
Yeah.
the
The
studio,
college, the
Yeah.
studio scene,
the soundproof
and it's
window.
a studio apartment too,
Cool.
so it all ties in.
That's a really good. I didn't think about that, but that's a really good comparison.
Yeah, so that's where we get Quinn, who is played by Liana Labarato. I believe that's how you say her last name. That's where she gets attacked. And then we have newcomer Jack Champion, who plays Ethan Landry. I
Oh
think
my god!
Wait, he's not in that scene.
He's not. He's Chad's roommate.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just going through kind of the new characters first.
Got it. Sorry. I thought specifically about that scene. Sorry.
No, it's cool.
Just you mentioning Jack Champion though, I like my mind exploded after seeing this movie. He was really good in the movie, but then having my friend Dylan tell me that he's Spider in Avatar: The Last Way, the Way of Water, the last
Avatar: The Last Way of Water.
Water. He is like the main kind of like human character, kid character in the movie. Like he grew up kind of filming Avatar, apparently, and now he's like 18 doing Scream 6. He's gonna continue being in Avatar movies, and the whole movie I was like, he looks so familiar. And then finding that out, I was like, no. There's no way that's Spider.
I've never watched Avatar 2, so this is the first time I'm seeing him. He did amazing in this movie, though.
Yeah, he's a really good actor. He's great in Avatar as well. So he's my favorite part of that movie.
And then we have Detective Bailey, played by, I always see this guy's name wrong, Demont Maroney? Demont Maroney.
Sure.
I believe that's how it's said. Which he's incredible because he's got that balance that I guess we're getting into spoiler territory. We've been spoiler territory all the time. That every killer needs of like, he starts off and you're like, okay, he's the cop. You don't expect the cop to be the bad guy. And then they turn it on at the very end and you realize what his motivation is. And you're like, that's why he's able to, jump around these fucking couches as fast as he can. Like, how he's like so physical all the way through. You're like, that is really cool. Taking something that you're like, I kind of hope they don't do the same teenagers, and they kind of do, but they also change up by having someone who has like training, like fighting training, being one of the killers.
Well, and I really go ahead.
No,
Jen.
go ahead.
I really liked how in some of the Ghostface scenes you could tell like I think they were deliberately trying to emphasize like, you know, whoever it was behind the mask, you know, the stunt person, but you could tell it was like an older man, almost.
And
like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all I had. Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing to where, because we had so many rumors about, is Stu Macher back? And that was like the only thing that like held me to that theory, because that's something I really want to see in Scream, more than kind of anything. I want to see that happen just because I know Matthew Lillard's a really good actor. Like, you know, even dramatic actor. Saw him in The Descendants, and then just he's like, it's like him and Dewey are my two like favorite characters in Scream, and then Randy's probably like, you know, third there, and then Sydney. Anyways, I could rank those later. But yeah, I love Stu in the first movie, and I think it would just be a really incredible thing to see him return. You know, I've talked about this before, but like when people were kind of like hinting that it's a possibility still, like we didn't get it in 5, I was disappointed. And then in 6, it's like, you know, people are kind of coming around to that idea, and they even kind of hint at the fact that he could still be alive. But even before that, exactly what Kerri was just saying, it looked like a mature, really mature person. And I'm like, is this Stu? That could be so incredible if this is Stu. But I was not disappointed this time, because I did like this actor and character, because I love the turn that he does. Like, he has this like really big like overacting moment in like the middle when he's like, you know, he's like, when I find out who did my daughter, I'll kill him, and stuff like that. And it's just like so overacting that you're like, is this actor not doing that great of a job? And then and then you see at the end when he makes the turn, you're just like, he's pulling a fucking Billy and Stu right now, where he's over the top, crazy psychopath guy, or sociopath, I guess. You know,
or pulling a Mickey.
Yeah, and he's overacting because, you know, his daughter isn't actually dead. And...
Right, exactly.
He has to play it up,
and he's playing it up, and it's not obvious why he's doing it, and it feels like it could have been like a flub, or maybe I'm like, oh, you know, maybe I'm imagining things. But I think it's kind of like a hint at this guy is different than like what he's trying to appear to be. And it's like the first little hint that he's something like, I got fired off the case and I'm going to take the law into my own hands. We're going to get him.
Well, and I thought this was so brilliant because, you know, they had kind of set up, and I thought they had done it subtly enough. They've really set up Kirby to be, I mean, she was the red herring, and I had fallen for it. And so when the detective comes into the final Ghostface scene, and he's like, oh, Kirby's like, she was fired. She's mentally unstable. Look, she like locked us in. And I was like, man, they made it a little too obvious. Like, I'm a little disappointed. And then, of course, like, they didn't at all. They just set her up perfectly as the red herring. And he would be the one who would be in the position to, you know, have her seem more suspicious than she is.
Yeah. Even to the point where they even question, like, isn't this evidence, like the mask and shit, isn't this supposed to be an evidence somewhere?
Yeah, that's a good point. They set it all up. No, I had a thing. The thing about Kirby versus the cop. Like, no, you. It's kind of like a Stu versus Randy in Scream. Kind of like, no, Sydney, it's him.
Yeah.
I love
and like the great thing about this twist is like it harkens back to Scream 2 so much, but it makes a lot of sense as to why it ties back to Scream 2 and Scream 5. Which, I mean, we can go ahead and get to the motivation real quick. That way we can talk about like the comparisons, and then we can get to favorite scenes
between the cop and Mrs. Loomis.
Yeah. That. And like the fact that like Quinn, who is Detective Bailey's daughter,
Mm-hmm.
isn't really dead. Again, makes a lot of sense. He's a cop. He can forge evidence. He can be like, oh no, she's actually dead. Let's get her out of here. And then you realize, oh, Ethan, played by Jack Champion, he is also the son of Bailey. And then you're like, oh, it's a family type thing. And then you realize, oh, they're related to
They're
Richie,
the
and it's
curses.
and this is a revenge plot, which I fucking love. That this is like a revenge plot thing.
And you can see that how like Ruby is the way that he is because his whole fucking family is like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this just is so perfect for this movie in particular, where we don't have Sydney in it, because we see, based on the killer's motivation, they're not really motivated to go and find Sydney and kill her or suck her into this.
Yeah, it has
Mhm.
nothing to do with Sydney.
Yeah, and that's just brilliant how they pulled that off, I think.
Yeah, and I like the stuff. The reason why I feel like this movie is just paying respect to everything, despite my stuff that I feel about Nev is like if they actually do her right one day and give her the money that she's owed for being the face of Scream, I could see a return for her. But yeah, since they did have that dispute, she couldn't be in this one. I agree that I don't feel like it was necessary. It was because I really love this movie. But when they do talk about Sydney, she's still in the canon. They're still talking about her. They're still mentioning her. I forget in exactly what context, but it's not like they forget about any of the previous characters. They're always still a part of the story because but in this iteration, everybody's life has been touched by every other character pretty much. So
yeah. So speaking of Sydney and how I think this was the perfect way to kind of respect her character is that she's mentioned multiple times in the film, and every time she's mentioned, it's by Gail.
Yeah,
Which is great because again, they have the most history with each other. I love the line where Gail's like, where Sam asked Gail, is Cindy coming? She goes, no, she took Mark and her kids. Let her have her happy ending. Let her be safe. And then at the end, with the Gail attack scene, which we will get to, that's a badass scene. But when Gail is on the floor, she's like, tell Sydney that Ghostface didn't get me. Because she knew that if Sydney found out that Gail was attacked, she would come right to Woodsboro, just like she did with Dewey. She did not want to put Sid in danger again.
Yeah, it's such a really cool thing. And I mean, it's still up in the air whether or not she'll return one day.
Mhm.
Hopefully, if she does, it'll be a while so that we can actually have like a good story of her returning. But if they do decide to never have her return, I think that would be okay because she does have that happy ending.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're not always worried about, oh, is this the movie that they're gonna kill off Sydney in?
Exactly.
Mhm.
The entire time. What was I gonna say? Oh, I love the harkening back to the original Scream, Gail doing the interview scene, and then Sam goes to punch her, she ducks, and then Tara comes right in and punches her the other side.
I was gonna bring that up like much earlier because I was like, yeah, I love all the callbacks, not just to 2, but to 1 as well. And with that, and it's almost like because I was sitting there like, people were like, Sam is the new Sydney, or is Tara the new Sydney, or what's going on here? Like, I mean, trying to make, but yeah, it's kind of like they're both Sydney in a way, or they're both that like archetype, and they play off each other so well. And that scene showing them being a team, but also showing that Gail has learned some things. She's kind of grown still, but she's also like
Dodge that right hand.
She's also still in kind of like this weird funk that like in 5 you learn that what Dewey's saying that you were always happier when you were writing, and now she's not doing that. She's doing other stuff and has her like show, and you could see like all the fame and money that she's profited off of the Woodsboro murders. She's not happy, even with her new life, and they're like, you'll never be rid of this ghost face thing, like this whole thing, like you're never happy unless there's a new ghost face to track down, which I think is kind of like the opposite of Kirby, where Kirby's kind of like excited to be like, I'm gonna get the next one, but Gail is almost like it's a crutch for her, like she can never move on.
Yeah, well, she is still writing, and I think this is another callback to Scream 2, where she publishes a book about the murders, and the characters are all everyone else is pissed about how they're depicted in the book.
It's my favorite part of Scream 2 is the relationship between Dewey.
She calls Sam mentally unstable, I think, in her book.
Like that, yeah. And Gail is kind of partially the one who reveals to the world that Sam is Billy's daughter. And
I didn't think about that either. What are you guys' thoughts on Gail writing another book based on the killers, even though in the 5th one she said she wasn't?
I think it makes sense for her character to have kind of defaulted to that. And yeah, because I think it's in Scream 5, right? It makes for like a nice little happy ending. But since we're continuing the franchise, I do think it does. I think, like Chad said, it shows that she's grown in some ways, but in some ways she is still the same Gail.
She's doing the same stuff over and over. And, she really, unless they do some sort of cool, like, final arc for her in the next movie or the next one or whatever, how many from Courtney Cox wants to do, she probably won't have that happy ending that Sydney has. So I don't know. For the, like, this being like a new franchise, like, the requel, the sequel to the requel, and then whatever the next one's going to be, trequel to the
trequel. Yes,
it makes sense that she would write a new book.
Yeah, I didn't mind it either. I just saw like a lot of people had problems with that scene in particular, but I was like, it is Gail Weathers. Like, she's never going to be completely clean cut. So you kind of expected, of course she would write about a new Ghostface attack. That's what she got her fame and stuff on.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of like a cool little arc with her and like Dewey saying you should write more, and then she does. So
yeah. I also love that after Tara punches her, a few scenes later she goes, "Sorry about punching you," and Gail goes, "No, you're not. No, you're not."
Tara like smiles and she's like, "I'm
not. I'm not sorry." So should we get into the 3rd act?
Yes.
Yeah.
The set piece. I love that the whole set piece of the 3rd act is in the theater with the shrine. You get all the Easter eggs, which somebody has to make a breakdown of every single like Easter egg in that room, and I'll be watching it immediately. I would say that right now, because I could not do that in the theaters. I noticed some stuff, like, of course, like the jacket from Steve Orth. More of like the clothing attires I've noticed.
Yeah, it's like Randy's like uniform or whatever from
the movie theater, or the movie store. You got Trevor's shirt in there as well from Scream 4. So yeah, it is revealed that Detective Bailey is one of the killers and the father of Richie from Scream 5. I like that they showed home footage, like Richie's home movies in the background on the big screen. And then at the ending, it said written and directed by Richie Kirk.
Yeah. And then walking. Yeah, that was really cool.
That was a great set piece.
That was a great ending too. Yeah.
Definitely. And then it's revealed again that Ethan and Quinn are the brother and sister of Richie. And it's also revealed that Ethan and Quinn were the ones who started the rumors about Sam being the killer. And then Ethan said something about it's not something just to murder somebody. You got to murder their reputation as well.
Yeah.
Which, again, another commentary on social media and things like that, where you can easily like make one narrative about somebody and get it spreading really easily. So then we have Sam letting Tara go off the ledge. Call back to the the opening scene, and then Tara jumps and just stabs Ethan straight down the throat with the knife.
Yeah.
And then a great ending line, I guess you will die a virgin.
Yeah.
And then she turns the knife.
Or
And
you
then
died a virgin or something like that.
yeah.
Just
You
know.
died a virgin. Yeah, just know. And then Sam and Bailey, or no, in Sam shoots Quinn in the head. I just like how it's just like really quick. And then they fight off the balcony. They land through a pane of glass. And then when Bailey wakes up, this is a great scene because he looks and sees that the Billy costume and the knife are all gone.
Yeah.
And then you realize, oh shit, Sam is wearing her father's costume. And she just, again, decides to butcher Bailey the same way that she did Richie in 5. Nice little callback as well.
Yeah, well, and I thought that was just really cool, like how brutal Sam is. Like, it's something we see it in 5, and that's kind of just the culmination. I like in this movie, she's a little bit more accepting of that brutality. And I just liked in this movie how, I don't know how to word it. Just like, in previously when Sydney is, the one killing the final character, she'll stab them and then shoot them. She's just trying to just finish the deed, get them killed. And Sam's like kind of acting like a ghost face when she is killing these guys.
That's a really great point.
Yeah.
And we see that, going further into other films, like we can explore that a little more and see if because she kind of, at the end of this seems to be choosing not to go down that path, but you can know that like she struggles with that choice even at the end. Like she's still like, is she going to like take up this mantle and end up being, and like, like Hunter was actually having like a brilliant like theory about that before we saw the movie, and just saying like, what if, we see like Sam, having the mask at the end or putting on the mask at the end or something like that, I will say she drops it at the end, but then, I could easily see her changing her mind if there's another like inciting incident or
I mean,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
The way I interpret it, and I could be looking deep into this, the killers in this one dropped every mask at a crime scene as a shrine, like a Easter egg for the cops to look at. What if she dropped it as a here's my little Easter egg. I can always come back to this.
I looked at it as this isn't me. But I love that how that moment could be either.
Yeah.
Going back to what you mentioned about the ledge scene and she's holding on to Tara, I think that is a pivotal moment because of the whole storylines. It kind of concludes their little arcs for this movie and their relationship. But then also, it's really cool to see how tense it was because I think you had both siblings like closing in on them. Yeah, he was down there like trying to get her with the knife.
Trying to stab her, yeah.
And then like, Quinn was coming out of, I'm sorry to put that in my hand for your face. Quinn was coming out slowly, like, scraping the thing. And you're like, you got to do something here. And you're like, are both of them going to get killed? Is one of them going to get killed? And then Tara's like, let me go, trust me. And, she does. And I just think that's a really cool moment of, that's Sam's kind of like letting go.
I also love that after Sam shoots Quinn in the head and they have that standoff here, like, oh yeah, just shoot Bailey. And she goes and the bullet's out. She goes, fuck it. She throws the gun and just starts like running after him. She said, fuck this, and just like bolts to him, and they start fighting on that one.
Yeah.
And then Sam has a great line at the end where it's, I'm the daughter of a serial killer. Why do you think I won't be different? Ooh. Great fucking closing line, man. So, any other thoughts about the set piece you guys want to talk about?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a really great one. How they constructed it, like we already talked about how, they had access to evidence. I love the the killer family. It's something we haven't seen before,
Mhm.
and I think that was a pretty incredible choice. The reveals were great. The fight sequences were great. The stuff with Sam at the end killing him was crazy. And yeah, the home movies with Richie I thought was a really nice touch, and yeah, it was just all really really cool.
Yeah,
A really
I
great ending.
I love that the broken TV that killed Stu is
Yes,
in play again, and
yeah,
it kills Ethan.
Yeah.
Like Kirby just pushes the TV on his head.
yeah. And then they just make that line where they go, "No one ever saw him die, or no one
Well,
ever saw the
they do a little
body."
call to it. Yeah, like if you believe
If you
that.
believe
Yeah,
that theory.
and of
Yeah.
course Mindy would be the one to say if you believe he's actually dead, because
Yeah,
you know she's watched like conspiracy theories about these.
Well, and I like that they left it open. It wasn't like Kirby's like, oh no, he's dead. Because she would know, right? She's a cop.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Hmm.
that's radio silence telling us, hey, we haven't ruled it out.
Yeah, it's still up in the air. A few other scenes. I think the scene with Chad and Tara in the theaters in the third act was really good. The little
Yeah,
kiss, and then Chad, man, he went
the
out
fight.
swinging. I like
Yeah,
the fact that it started off with one ghost face, and you were like, okay, he can fight him, and then one comes up behind him. You're like, fuck, I did not see him coming.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then the dual cleaning of the knife.
Yes,
Oh, that's
that was really cool.
badass.
Synchronized to like at the
Yes,
same exact time.
same
No,
time.
but seriously, because like at that moment right there, I was like, there's probably only two, but how fucking cool would it be if there were three Ghostface right now?
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was thinking
didn't
that the
call it at
whole time.
all.
I didn't call it. I didn't know if that was going to be I didn't say. I think it's probably going to be three.
I did not think they would do three.
I was just sitting there thinking, like, what could make this even better is if there's three, but not just three just to do it, but it makes sense and it's really cool. And it was.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have I think the whole subway scene is incredible too.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Ethan accidentally gets caught on another subway with Mindy, and now you realize, oh, he fucking did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way he didn't do that on purpose. And they even bring it up. They were like, um, that makes no sense as to why you think separating us would be better than just all of us getting on the same subway.
Right.
I think it was
Uh,
Chad that brought that up.
yeah. Yeah. And seeing that sequence, like in the trailer, because I was kind of like, pessimistic about six, I was like, I don't really care. But like, when it was in the movie and in the context of the movie, and it was very tense, and then I did love like all the callbacks to every other horror character you could probably imagine. I'm like, Kerri,
Pinhead, Freddy,
there's a freaking Babadook in the back. So
Samara Weaving's character from Ready or Not.
right.
Yep, in there as well.
And yeah, I just love how tense it was. I love how they were cutting back and forth to both trains, and I was like, oh, which train are we in right now? Kind of deal. But then, yeah, it was so tense, and you just didn't know what was going to happen. Every single time you saw a ghost face somewhere, you're wondering, is that like a real ghost face or just someone in a costume? And
Yeah.
it's just, that's the coolest thing about this franchise, is that it could be either, and you just never know until they actually do something. And then yeah, so just that sequence with Mindy kind of like backed into a corner, you're just like, is something permanent about to go down? And I was really afraid for Mindy because I really like that character.
Yeah, I thought she was gone. And
Same.
that was cool how like it was very effective use of like, the lights going in and out.
Yes.
Probably one of the scariest
parts.
Scream moments in the history of the franchise.
I was sitting there like, okay, because Scream's not normally scary. And I was like, all right, the lights are going to come on and this person's going to pop up. It's going to be, he's like there, he's closer now. Lights go out, boom. And I'm like, no, don't.
Yeah.
don't. So.
Yeah, I think that whole train, like subway sequence, was just beautifully done, man. Because like the tension is like, you feel the tension like all the way through. I love the running joke of Mindy trying to figure out who the killer is, And she always comes so close. She even like
She got it this time.
she got one of them.
You
Yeah,
stay away from me.
Ghostface.
She comes up at the end and she's like, it's him and Detective Bailey. She gets two of them.
Yeah, she gets two of them, and then she's surprised by Quinn, and then
Yeah.
she's like, "Damn it!"
Yeah, that was that and the cop. I think were I don't know because I didn't believe what's his name. What is the
Bailey.
name? Bailey. I didn't think he was the killer. Like I was like, no,
Right.
it's like kind of a little too obvious because they are pointing the finger at him. They're like, you could have rigged the the roommate thing.
Oh, the roommate, not the detective you're talking about.
Yes, the roommate.
Ethan.
Ethan. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, that's who I was talking about. The roommate. You could have rigged that, and then she points the finger at him the whole time, and then I was just sitting there like, I don't think it's him, and then I was fooled.
I love the text between Chad and Mindy, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm on the subway with Ethan, aka GF."
Yeah.
And I'm like, that makes that's something Mindy would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Mindy's whole speech about the sequel to the requel, and they're like, it's what she was like, it's always someone of the new cast, and they go, how about you guys? The shared trauma, one of you guys could have snapped, and they were like, nah. Like that wouldn't make any sense.
That is really cool. Oh yeah, I have to go back and watch that part because
And then another scene I want to bring up is the whole set piece with Gail, and finally getting the call from the killer. And I like that they brought it up, and they were like, it's surprising that we've never talked one-on-one before. And I'm like, yeah, nice little callback there.
Yeah, and the way she like ran to like get her gun, and then there's like started just like firing willy nilly. She shot through like front door. I was like, did she just kill somebody random like through her front door? Because she's just like fire like the bullets just don't. They keep going sometimes. Like you might be actually murdering somebody just firing that shit.
I thought that was a closet door, not her front door.
Was that I thought that was the front door that she opened and Ghostface was there. Is that a closet?
I think it's a closet door.
Never mind.
Yeah, it's like a walk-in closet type thing because she has her safe inside a little pocket area.
Panic room.
Yeah, I will say that I've seen some critiques online about like, because everyone's saying that this was Quinn who was attacking Gail, and I'm like, if that is, then I can see the criticism of like, how did she throw, her big ass boyfriend across the room? And I'm like, well, it's suspicion of disbelief again. Like,
I'm trying to think. I'd have to rewatch it to see if it would have to be Quinn logically, but off the top of my head, I don't see why it would have had to have been Quinn as opposed to her dad or her brother.
And the dad would make the most sense. Her brother's like a little skinny.
Yeah. I would say her and her brother probably equal in like the physical capacity.
Yeah. And that was my whole kind of like commentary on, Amber versus Dewey, which rewatching the scene again, like I could see how the tussle, would have been like a little more even, but like even like the heights don't match up and stuff like that. But
yeah, but also like I'm accustomed to be like, okay, this is obviously a stunt actor, so I know it's a stunt actor in every one of these movies, so I'm like I don't take the height deprivation as seriously as some people do, because I'm like I understand that most of these movies are stunt actors anyway.
Well, I think like the only thing that it does is if you don't like one of the movies, it just gives you an extra like, you know what? That part's kind of stupid.
Yeah, it's like Scream 3 and the voice changer. It's like the whole movie is bad because of the voice changer.
Well, yeah, and Scream 3, I think you do even have an issue with there just being one killer because you do kind of have to suspend disbelief to believe.
Yeah, because there's no way that Roman could have been in everywhere at the same time. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
So it just, again, like suspending, disbelief on some of the stuff I can do because it's like, technically speaking, Tatum couldn't have died in that doggy door anyway. So the door would have stopped halfway through. So it's like, if you really nitpick a lot of things in this franchise, nothing would make sense.
True. That's true for most movies. So
Yeah, definitely. I love the fact that like we got a lot of great chase sequences in this movie. Like I think 4 or 5 great set pieces. Um, but back to the Chad and Tara thing, I got so off track. I don't know what happened there, but I like the fact that like Chad fights off one of them, and then you just see him just like fucking get gutted, and you're just like, I hope he fucking survived. And this is the moment I'm talking about where it's like, well, Randy died in part 2, so they could kill off Chad. Now, like, you better fucking not do this again, and they didn't. So I'm glad they didn't.
yeah, yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool that a lot of them survived. It's sometimes I think you feel like you're like, well, for it to be like interesting and for it to feel like there's stakes, you kind of gotta like kill one of them this movie and then let it be. And I thought like Gail was kind of done for this movie as well because I
Yeah.
was like, well, Dewey and like they're killing all the originals kind of deal now. But you know, I'm glad that they didn't do any permadeath because like for any of them because I like this franchise moving on. I'm excited for 7 now, and I'm excited to see what they do. And I like to have a good amount of characters for them to interact and have stuff happen and stuff like that. So, but I mean, if they kill someone next movie, it would be interesting. But then I was like, yeah, I mean, if they kill Mindy, who the hell's going to be the Randy? You got to have a
Yeah.
Randy.
And then if you kill off Chad, like I think Chad is like one of the heart of the core 4 because he's the one who like is like the body, like the heart of the core 4. But I'm like, you could kill off Chad, and then that would be extra motivation to everybody else. And I'm like, no, I fucking love Chad. So I don't know. It's just
Yeah, but
flip-flopping.
that's the strength of these 2 movies now is that you already love these characters. So
Yeah, exactly. I can't think of any other.
oh, the one thing I wanted to add
Mhm.
is the thing because I've said it to people before, but I haven't said it here. Is that because I did not like Sam in Scream 5 that much. Like I didn't hate her. It's just like I was like, why they should have just had Jenna Ortega. Not that I don't like Melissa Barrera.
Barrera.
I liked her in The Heights and stuff like that. But you know, Scream 5, I was just like, I don't know. And then now, like them deepening her character, I really liked Sam in this one. I liked her like kind of growth. And then I also really, I don't know. It was like I think when she was climbing up the balcony or was she just climbing up something, she just seemed so badass. And then just the way like her moves, she's like moving around, just doing cool shit like that. I was like, she was reminding me of like Sarah from The Descent and Tamara
Yeah.
from Ready or Not. It was like just like a really badass final girl. And I was like, oh hell yeah, dude. She's so good.
Yeah.
Definitely. I like the fact that in this Scream franchise, like Scream 5 and 6, it seems like they give both Sam and Tara final girl materials to work with. It's not one over the other. They both share the amount of screen time with each other.
Yeah, I like that they really leaned into like which they didn't emphasize I think as much in 2022, but they set it up, but they really emphasized that like, you know, this is like the sisters together. They're both the main final girls, the main characters.
And then it'll be cool to see if they go and have them verse each other.
Ooh.
I don't like that.
So I was beginning to like Radio Silence. And
then they did this. I love the line with Gail and Sam where Gail's like, "Where's your mother?" And she goes, "After I told Tara about her father, she wanted nothing to do with me." And then Gail goes, respectfully, "Fuck her." And I'm like, that, yep. I just love these like small character interactions you get where, you know, with different variations, whether it's Tara and Chad or, you know, Sam and Gail. You just get really cool like interactions with all the characters together.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Is there anything else that you guys want to bring up before we close it out?
Think we can close it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went a long time into this movie, man. But there's so much to talk about, and I know the moment I get off of air, there's gonna be something else
Yeah.
that I forgot to bring
Yeah.
up, and I'll be so mad. But
That's okay because we do this all the time. You can always bring it up on another episode
Yeah.
or in the group chat.
or in the group chat, and then I'm like, there's also Scream 7 next time, and we can do like,
Exactly.
and that'll be like so far removed from when we did our first ranking that we could just do another ranking then or something.
I
like
would
that.
love to do like another Scream ranking on here, but just do it including Scream 6 after we see it a few more times.
I'd be down. Let's do, and you know what? We could like somewhat just like bring in more rankings. We used to do rankings a lot, and now we don't do it as much. So
Yeah,
maybe we can do some more. Because I think
definitely.
it's also because I do some on my channel. But
Nice little segue plug. I appreciate that. That was
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, definitely. I think a Scream ranking, especially adding in 6, would be interesting to be like, is it above some movies? Is it below some movies? Like, where would you rank them? Because right now, I think Scream 6 is my second favorite one, but that's on my first rewatch.
yeah, no, it's not that high, but it is right now. I think at 3.
Wow.
And 5 is currently my last place. So there you go. That's like how much I like Scream 6. But I think like a full rewatch with Scream 6 at the end,
Mm-hmm.
like me and Kerri will probably do
Yeah.
at some point. Maybe invite people over, like my sister who hasn't seen any of them, to watch them all with us.
Ooh.
I think that could be like a really fun time. And then afterwards we'll go, hey, you want to do a Scream ranking? And then maybe we can finally see where everything is like officially. And it always changes, but
Yeah, exactly.
And that's funny because like watching like Scream rankings, you notice like how much love Scream 3 is getting nowadays. It's like people are like rewatching it and like there are some really great stuff about it.
Yeah.
And I love that because there is no bad Scream movie.
Yeah.
Exactly,
I've
yeah.
always been a pretty big Scream 3 defender. Like I've always said it may be the worst one, maybe not, but it's really good. So
Yeah. And like Scream is a franchise that like even if one of the movies is your last one, it's still a really good movie with great
Yeah.
moments. And you're like, I don't hate any of these films.
Yeah.
because they're all fun. So
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like my my like home comfort series that I can just put on like whenever and be like, I'm gonna enjoy Scream 2 today, or
Yeah.
Scream 5 or Scream 3. It's just I can put one on randomly and be like, hey, I'm having fun for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to have yet another installment in the Scream franchise. And this movie gave me hope for the future of Scream. And I'm excited to see 7. I would not have said that pre-seeing Scream 6. So that's what the movie gave me. That's why I have it currently at number 3. And we'll see. I don't know. We'll see where the rankings go. But yeah, I had fun talking about it.
Definitely. So one more question for you guys before we head out. What are some things that you would want to see in Scream 7?
I want to see Stu Macher. I want to see Stu Macher return as the big bad of Scream 7 because I think that would be really
I
cool.
had wanted that for 5, and my opinion is if they were gonna do it, they should have done it in 5. When they were like, this is Scream coming back. But I don't know. I kind of otherwise just trust Radio Silence to give us something brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I also want to see Sam versus Tara, and you don't. So
I definitely don't want to see
we
that.
might have if they
Don't
give
wanna
us
see that at all.
if they give us Stu teaming up with Sam
No.
versus Tara, in
No,
7.
I like the sisters.
Yeah,
No.
it's complicated.
I don't know. I always thought it'd be cool to see like Sam finally embrace the dark side
That's what I'm saying.
and like finally just let that slip. But I don't know. I also see like Kerri's side where it's like Scream 6 delves so deep into the sister dynamic, and I love their chemistry together that I don't know if I would want to see them fight each other. I don't know. I'm conflicted again.
Because I don't think you can make it like if you turn Sam into the killer, like that's kind of gonna be it for her for Scream. You got to be willing to be like, this is like the end of the franchise, or like we're gonna introduce more new characters, and then they're gonna be the core character. Like, I don't know. I don't see how you have Sam be the killer and continue. Then the next movie, she's the final girl again. It doesn't really make.
No. She would be one of the killers in Scream 7, and then she would die. That's how
I don't
how
like
it would
that.
happen.
And then
No.
Tara's the final girl for the rest of this. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't
And
know.
that's
Well,
exactly
to be
what
fair, you could just end it with the Red Dead Silence trilogy,
you
5,
could.
6, and 7, and then have someone else take over for the rest of them. If you wanted to continue like new stories, new
Could do
characters.
that. I just kind of like the idea of them building up this relationship just to rip your heart out. Let's go. Psych.
Gotcha.
It was leading up to this the whole time.
By the way, big props to Roger L. Jackson. That man sounded menacing through the entire movie.
Yeah.
He is the one of the MVPs of Scream. Like like that, just hearing that voice is just Scream.
Yeah.
Even in 5, when I was
Yep.
like, this isn't the most Scream to me. Hearing him, and then him not just doing that voice, but like then just like doing like a different kind of voice. Like when he was talking to Tara in 5,
Yeah.
just doing a different kind of voice.
And then like going right into it.
That was
Yeah.
so perfect for that opening.
Or like the way he says Judy in 5 always gets me.
Yeah.
Judy.
And I adored when he finally talked to Sam, and then he was like, "Hello, Samantha."
Mantha.
I'm like, oh no, just like hello, Sydney. It's so perfect.
And like I also love the little Easter egg of them. Every time the killer calls, it says Richie Kirch is calling you
Yes.
on Sam's phone.
That was creepy.
It's like a reminder of like, what the fuck? I thought I deleted his number. Like,
Makes so much sense though, because you're sitting
Mhm.
there like, how would the killer have gotten Richie's phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's his fucking. They would have given his phone to his fucking family.
yep.
Or evidence, and then he's a cop.
And
Yeah.
yep, you can pick it up. And then again, it all ties into, isn't this all supposed to be in evidence? Of course he would have all the masks there. He works for the fucking cops. Of course he has, you know, all the masks and all the stuff. And you know that Richie was a huge staff fan, so of course he would have that collection. And again, what's different about this one is like the dad's not like a staff fan. He even says, he was like, I just thought they were a little dark. Like, but like Richie was obsessed with them. He wasn't really a fan of horror movies. So it's somebody who's just out for a revenge plot, not someone who was doing it based on the movies.
Yeah.
He said, "Fuck the movies."
He said, who gives a fuck about the movies?
Yeah.
All right, guys, we could go another hour, but we do not have the time. Chad and Kerri, where can we find you online?
Just around.
Yeah,
you know?
just normally check out Chadwick Webb. I rank stuff. Check out Dill Pickle Movie Network. We talk Oscars, and then check out my blog, Clear Eyes Full Heart Reviews.wordpress.com.
Awesome. All right, guys, if you did enjoy this, hit the like button, subscribe to Nerd Entertainment Network down below. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys soon.